Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
White diamonds, 2 a.m. she wildin'. She sick, got they stomach in her comics. What school you went to? Gardena, Compton, Westchester, King, True, do we function? Lil, what that dog give me, that's on cup. All my kids, I sock you up. Have you ever took a fade and ran 3 more back to back? Oh, you haven't? Then shut the up and keep it rap. I'm from the land, don't say you hate LA when you don't travel past the 10. Am I tripping? Yes, I am. Meditate over some money. I see Franklin, I find Van. I'm from the land. Don't say you hate LA, but live in LA and pretend. My neck on Tarantino, Alejandro Spike Lee. Just know you took the scenic route if you stand by me. Stupid.
So fly in this 50 on me, don't die trying it. You know I'm up and down when I slide in this. Beamers and the jets outside in this. West side, get the money, yeah, that's for sure. Streets don't love you, better respect the code. Ain't no sleeping in on Sunday. If it's about the money, then my
Well, we are broadcasting past the 10 this morning, live from Leimert Park, Africatown, USA. And we can catch up on things going on the national scene. It's crazy because it seems like every inch of this show between now and Friday is full of incredible guests. We're broadcasting tomorrow, as you know, the 100th day since the wildfires broke out in Altadena. We're going to be doing a nationally broadcast town hall meeting for KBLA Talk 1580, commemorating that terrible, terrible day, celebrating the great resilience and bounce back of Altadenans, and embracing, as we always do, our beloved Black community. We're going to be giving away air purifiers, gift cards up to $100 to survivors. So do come and join us. That's going to be tomorrow from 4 to 6, the Altadena Eat and Fire 100 Days and Counting. It is free, absolutely free, but you do have to register in advance at kbla1580.com. That's where you'll get the info on where we're going to be at and all of that and how to join. And I hope to see you there. I'm going to be co-hosting that along with Dr. Nicolai Corte. Tavis Smiley will be there participating, and we look forward to seeing you there. So that's happening. Of course, we have our Freedman Friday, our reparations conversation, but it's just, for whatever reason, sometimes it be like that. So I'm going to encourage you, if you want an opportunity to debunk a talking point or share something you have been thinking about, to call me at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580, because the conversations are going to be thick this whole week. Now, we can catch up on some of the things that are going on around and about the nation. National, international, and beyond is what we call this. And I started off the day speaking with Dr. Melina Abdullah. One of the things we talked about was Harvard standing up to this administration. I think it's important because just as, cowardliness, fear, and capitulation is contagious, courage is also contagious. And this is a courageous move by the administration at Harvard. And Harvard is, to some degree, a gold standard in the academic world. It's older than the United States, as the New York Times points out, by 140 years. And it has an endowment bigger than the gross domestic product of 100 countries. It's a wealthy, powerful, and prestigious institution. So I'm hoping that other universities will say, let's be like Harvard. And maybe some of the law firms, because these big law firms, some of them have already agreed to pay off the Trump administration to avoid being targeted by the Department of Justice. But many of those firms are packed with Harvard attorneys. So maybe they'll say, be like Harvard. The fact that President Barack Obama has stepped up and criticized the Trump administration for trying to defund Harvard. He's also a Harvard grad, so it makes sense. I'm hoping this will move the needle. A former judge, appeals court judge, Michael Luttig, is quoted in the New York Times saying this should be the turning point in the president's rampage against American institutions. Wasn't expecting this from Harvard, especially after their president was forced to step down and all of the shenanigans that happened around that. But it does seem to be already changing the conversation. The president of Wesleyan University says that when institutions overreach, they change the course. When institutions overreach, they change course when they meet resistance, like when a bully is stopped in his tracks. And he's talking about Harvard, of course. So they've had $2.2 billion in multi-year grants frozen. They get $9 billion every year. The government froze $2 because the other $7 goes to hospitals in Boston and Cambridge, in the Cancer Institute. So I don't think, we'll see, but so far the administration hasn't been willing to go that far. We know that Columbia University bent over backwards and did all kinds of crazy concessions because they were not ready to lose $400 million. Oversight of 3 of their departments, including African Studies, and they had to turn over their hiring records, all kinds of concessions. This is something Harvard is saying no to. So that's great news. And that's why, I'm talking about it today, because I feel like it's important. There's a lot of stuff going on as always. But one of the things that I've been thinking about in terms of what's happening in American politics and the economy is that it's bringing into more of a stark contrast or relief the idea of class. We talk a lot about race, right? And it is a big part of America. There is a caste system. Black people are on the bottom. That's how it's designed. It's designed for us to be slaves or wage slaves, right? However, oppression under this system is not only based on race, it's also a class system. The low resourced communities, working class and poor people, are not given the same advantages. And it's not just because, well, I'm rich, so I have more advantages. No, when you look at the number of very wealthy people, billionaires who pay no taxes at all. If you look at the way some of the big corporations are able to get fancy accountants and pay no taxes at all. If we consider the fact that our cash bail system means you can get out of jail based solely on the fact that you have money, not how dangerous you are or how contrite you are, but do you have money to pay the bail? And if you don't, you're probably going to sit in jail, and then you might lose your job, lose your car, even lose your kids, right? So I am thinking that the extremism of having billionaires looking after their own interests so blatantly may make us start to have more of a class analysis. And by us, I mean average Americans. I am not talking about, just economists and pundits. I'm talking about regular people who pay bills and try to feed their kids and live decent lives. That's what I'm talking about. And there's a couple incidents that have happened recently that made me think this could be some, and just also the overall conversation about how much everything costs, and the fact that like Huffington Post and a couple other publications are now saying not owned by billionaires. The fact that we are starting to have more consciousness about the very rich. The fact that we're starting to consider this idea of predatory capitalism, and that Bernie Sanders and AOC are touring the country on an anti-oligarch platform, drawing huge crowds. 36,000 in LA, according to the LAPD, which means probably more like 50 that came out, means that people are waking up to this idea. And look, I'm not saying you can't be rich or that you can't accumulate assets, but there's a point where you're the richest man in the world and you're cutting other people's Social Security. There's a point where you're a billionaire and you have more than you could spend in your lifetime, but you don't want to pay the workers in your warehouses a living wage. That it becomes predatory. That it becomes inhumane. And I think people are starting to check that out. Even Beyonce, her own Bey Hive, which is notorious for coming after anyone that criticizes her, is now coming after her to an extent because they're saying she's charging too much for her Cowboy Carter tour and for her product lines. And that might seem like a small thing, but for a pop culture core group that is socialized to think we have to buy the latest whatever it is, car, dress, cologne, pair of shoes, no matter the cost. And that it's on us if, we're supposed to be ballers. For them to be critiquing Beyonce because she keeps coming back with another super expensive product that we have to buy. We don't have to buy, but they feel they have to buy if they're in the Bey Hive. They're saying, hey, enough is enough. Sacred, her hair care line, is going to mainstream. It's going to Ulta Beauty. And those things ain't cheap. So I think there is a pushback. And I believe that these are small signs that people are going to start thinking about things in terms of class, not just race, or not just MAGA versus not MAGA, or Dems versus Republicans. I feel like we're getting tired of the party politics of corporate America and the very rich. And I'm not saying both parties are the same, but I am saying there's a lot of people in the Democratic Party that are not looking out for the working class and the poor either. And I think because this administration is overreaching so broadly, and because there are so many billionaires in there, people's eyes are starting to open. And when the Bey Hive turns on Queen Bey and starts saying, we don't have any more money, we only have blood left to give, it's a sign that people are starting to give rich people, very rich people whose incomes start with B and T, as in billionaire and trillionaire, the side eye. Love to hear your thoughts on that. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 50 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting, on Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominique DiPrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Bring spring to your door with Target Circle 360. Get all you need for Easter hosting, spring get-togethers, and more with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. From Easter basket goodies to fresh florals, getting everything the same day is easy. Open the Target app and bring the magic of the season to your door with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. Visit target.com/circle or the Target app for more details. Subscription required. Same-day delivery is subject to terms. Applies to orders over $35.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, I appreciate you. So I brought up this idea of class warfare because I think it's, or at least class consciousness, because I think it is being raised by our current surge of oligarchical tendencies. We've always had them, but they're now really blatant and out in front with the richest man in the world cutting services to grannies who are subsisting on Social Security. And I hate to say I told you so, but I really don't. Because remember I said a vote for Trump is a vote to defund your granny? And that's exactly what's happening right now. My other sign here is that Steve Harvey and his wife Marjorie are taking a lot of heat online for posting a picture of them kissing in front of a private plane. And if you know Steve, like I do, I was one of his angels, so-called angels. I was part of his radio team for almost 4 years. And so I know how he is. He always talks about how he started from the bottom and now he's got all this money and God is good and he's working so hard. And that is true. He works really hard. He's a multimillionaire. But he's also, had advantages that some folks don't have. He's had help people that gave him a break and a hand up, as have I. As I'm not that I'm a multimillionaire or a uno millionaire, but just I'm grateful because I love my job and I love my work. But people got mad at them because they were kissing in front of a private jet, wearing their thousands of dollars designer clothes, which is what they always do. That's what they do. They post wearing, $50,000 worth of clothes. And Steve always talks about how, God blesses you when you're faithful to him and you get your hustle on. But I would argue that there are plenty of people that are faithful to him and working 2 and 3 minimum wage jobs who can't afford $50,000 worth of clothes. And apparently that is what the internet was saying. why post your wealth all the time when people are struggling to survive? Those kinds of comments. I think that it's another sign because people have just admired their flossy lifestyle. And another person said, did God flaunt his wealth? And so I think we are now in a changing time. Celebrities are less influential than they used to be. Big money and I've seen backlash against the Kardashians too, flaunting and flossing their wealth when inflation is high and people are struggling. So does that mean that out of this oligarchical moment comes a higher class consciousness? Let's go to Big Phil calling us from LA. Good morning, Big Phil.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Devil don't sleep. Hurry up, keep waking up. Let me tell you one thing. Where is the Surgeon General at? That Kenji guy, he don't know anything about no CDD system. What happened to the Surgeon General? Is he still around?
The Surgeon General, you know what? I haven't been tracking that. I've been so worried about RFK and his crazy stuff. But here's the thing. I mean, what are you doing about measles? What are you doing about? We now have an outbreak that is going across the country.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The Surgeon General apparently is still the Surgeon General. I
don't know. I haven't heard from him.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, but he is. Vivek Murthy. But apparently the Department of Health and Human Services, which is led by RFK, has taken down, is editing his website. They've taken down the advisory about gun violence from his page. Maybe that's why he's quiet. But they're clearly moving on him, but he is still the Attorney General. He's been ordered by executive order by Trump to review all agencies' actions from January 21st through now to promote safety that may have impinged on Second Amendment rights. So in other words, the Surgeon General, who's a doctor, not a lawyer, has been tasked with getting rid of anything that would limit your Second Amendment right to own firearms. And that's what he's busy with. He's not busy worrying about the measles or the bird flu or the potential resurgences of flu. None of that. He's Mpox. He's worrying about whether people are being impinged, their right to buy guns and own guns are being impinged upon by the safety regulations of the Surgeon General. That's what he's doing.
Let me see this, Dominique. He came out to the Jubilee a couple of years ago. I guess he's trying to get the black votes. I've seen him. He's a little bitty guy. I've seen him out there. But let me say one thing. I care less about billionaires and trillionaires. If I could pay somebody rent, help somebody, that's what I'm going to do. They got to answer to God when it's all over. So I'm going to go, and you guys take care. God bless. Stay safe, okay?
All right, you too, Big Phil. Thanks for calling that out because I really wasn't tracking it. The former Surgeon General saying that we're about to learn all about herd immunity because if we have measles outbreaks and we have a Health and Human Services Department that is downplaying, vaccines and science, that's what we may have to rely on. It's in 3 states now. The measles outbreak started in Texas. And it's moving, and we see how fast these things can move. And I guess what he's saying is that since a lot of folks are not getting vaccinated now, and we already have an outbreak at a time when Health and Human Services is on some anti-science stuff, we may see just how well herd immunity can work or not work in this situation. Let's go to Paul calling us from LA. Good morning, Paul.
Hey, the timing on that. Hey, good morning. The timing on that was perfect, Dominique, because the L.A. Times just reported that it's going to make your stomach turn. That the L.A. County Sheriff's Department spent $458 million in overtime last fiscal year.
Wow. Not surprising, but yeah. Not surprising, though.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation earlier that you had with Jareem is his name, I believe.
Yeah.
Last hour, I thought that was great because especially in a time like this where financial literacy is really important, and having these conversations while there's a lot of panic and chaos out there, I thought was dope. And this is why I always tell people to listen in, because these are the conversations you're not going to get on their mainstream media. And just in regards to discussing just how investing our money and having a long-term view and making sure that you're structuring, your payments and your debts and not accumulating it, I thought was really amazing, and definitely want to thank you for that.
Oh yeah, I'm always trying to teach myself, and and we can all learn together. Especially right now, people are saying crazy things in the chat, but it's not just me. People are panicking. People are getting up and moving. I know folks. They're going to Europe. I don't know that that's the answer. They've got their own fascism there, and their own financial problems there. So I just want to hear from financial experts and see what they say, not from a political or fear or panic perspective, but from a knowledge perspective of what makes sense.
And that's what's so dope about the community, especially in that chat. Big shout out to the 1580 Talk Radio chat. There are people that have financial experience over 30 years in there that I know personally. So when they share things and they're saying that's good information and pertinent information, it really is. But I want to discuss, Dominique, just real quick, because I know you got callers. Why we're here today is basically because, and I know I'm not saying I agree with everything during the Obama administration, but not only his presidency, but also his investment in educating people of color and Black people.
Yeah.
And I believe a lot of this push, and a lot of people don't know that. And that's why I always tell people when they come negative, I get really defensive, because where did you get that?
Hold that thought, Paul. We got news, traffic, and sports, but I want to hear everything that you have to say, because you always bring a lot of knowledge. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. New York City Mayor Eric Adams visited the Dominican Republic to pay respects to victims of last week's nightclub roof collapse, which killed over 200. He offered support to the families as New York City's Dominican community mourns. The federal government is freezing over $2 billion in grants to Harvard after the school rejected conditions to audit viewpoints and punish pro-Palestinian protesters. The administration's task force says harassment of Jewish students is intolerable. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele says he won't return a mistakenly deported man to the U.S., citing concerns about releasing terrorists. The DOJ admitted the man from Maryland should not have been deported due to a 2019 immigration judge's order. And the MLB will honor Jackie Robinson's legacy on Jackie Robinson Day, which is today, April 15th. All players will wear his iconic number 42 on a special patch. Robinson broke baseball's color barrier in 1947. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the tackle? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC forward Kiki Iriefin was the 4th player selected Monday night in the WNBA draft. Iriefin was chosen by the Washington Mystics. The LA Sparks used their first-round pick on Alabama forward Sarah Ashley Barker. The number 77 jersey worn by Lakers star Luka Doncic is the top-selling jersey in the NBA. Doncic is the first player other than LeBron and Steph Curry to lead the NBA in jersey sales since 2013. Doncic, a native of Slovenia, is also the first international player to lead the NBA in jersey sales. For some reason, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders has declined an invitation to attend the NFL draft, scheduled for April 24th in Green Bay. Sanders is projected to be the second quarterback selected. At least 17 players expected to be first-round picks have agreed to attend the draft. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them, the right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But this one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. Oh, one last number. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit LifeLock.com for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, so Paul from LA called, and you were talking about, finance and how important it is to situate ourselves with some good information and the different kinds of conversations we can have here, making it plain on the radio in ways that you might not hear in the mainstream media. Paul, you were kind of just getting started, but we were up against the clock. So handing you back the microphone right now.
All right, thank you. So just to give it I look at it as a continuation because obviously Biden was part of the Obama administration. It was his VP, and then obviously Kamala was a part of Biden's. But during Obama's presidency, one thing that people really overlooked was the investment in Black HBCUs and education that transpired. What you essentially have going on now is during his administration, it was $4 billion that was funded towards investments towards HBCUs each year. Pell Grant funding between the years of 2007 and 2014 was between $523 million and $824 million. Why this matters is, if you haven't noticed since this administration has come into office, what they essentially have done is they have defunded and they have pulled money and investments from grants and in those communities. So what they're essentially saying is this is like a backlash towards us not only being educated, but also, like I said on my previous call, is our growth, our equity growth, our economic growth overall. And why that matters, Dominique, is look where the money is going. So basically in their budget, about $5 trillion, again, is going to be added to the deficit. It's going to be offset by cuts in exactly the investments that I'm pointing to here. That comes directly to our community itself, basically to give the richest of the rich tax cuts.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we've been saying. That's what we've been talking about. And that's why it's hard for me to get my mind around the idea that many working class people thought this was the right thing to do. Not based on politics or party, but based on finance alone. It doesn't seem logical. And certainly we're going to see how that plays out. Let's see how it plays out. It's funny. I said it yesterday on the air. I would love to be wrong. I would love for Trump to be able to say, I told you so, Dominique. Look at how, all these other countries are now. Europe is paying their fair share of NATO, and everybody's giving us a better deal on imports. I would love to be wrong. It's just that it's not me alone, as Paul Krugman and, all these economists that know a little bit more than me or Trump. And Wall Street, too, at this point, even though they backed him. So it's going to be, I think, a lesson in, I think all of us have learned so much, whether we want to or not. We've learned that tariffs are taxes on us. We've learned who we buy what from and who we sell what to. We've learned how interdependent the whole world economies are and how Wall Street works. I mean, maybe not everything about it, but we're certainly getting a glimpse because of these erratic and radical policies that we're seeing. And I think, that's why I brought up the idea that maybe class consciousness is the silver lining here, that we will at least begin to understand the role of class and not just race when we analyze what's best for ourselves, our communities, and our nations.
Dominique, thank you for that. And this is why it's really important to understand. I always take things, I'm outside of the party spectrum. So whenever somebody gives that quick response, is, oh, you're just a Democratic shield, I'm like, no. I'm going to always vote in what's best policy-wise, what's on paper, what you're running on, and what kind of direct impact that's going to have on not just myself, but my community. Where is the money being invested? Where is the money being pulled from?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that sometimes, and the media does a really good job of this, is what's transpiring now is the dollar is being devalued. A lot of our wealth is tied to the dollar. Well, why did that happen? Because in the 80s, a decision was made, our government got involved, and pensions were let go for big businesses and CEOs so they wouldn't take on the expense, money to 401ks. So, yes, your vote matters because you're talking about your livelihood.
Yeah. Well, and the ripple effect is huge. Paul, thank you for your call. You're right. We do got a lot of folks that are trying to get on, but I always appreciate you dialing in and the way that you let people know about KBLA is a beautiful thing as well. Let's go to Mel calling us from New York City. Good morning, Mel.
Good morning, Dominique. How you doing?
I'm blessed. What's on your mind today?
I was liking the topic. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I was liking the topic. I agree that people are getting tired of people showing off online, not because people are jealous, but I think because people are tired of people who don't have any solutions. It's okay to have money and build a business and want to do concerts and all type of stuff and be in government, but I'm just so tired of watching people with all this power and they have no solutions to what's going on in the world, and a lot of things are going on. So I think that may be the frustration. If you have this access, you do have this power, and you're very successful, man or woman or whatever, it would be nice if you also add a little, kind of solutions or you at least acknowledge what's going on in the world, whatever side you're on. And I feel like no matter what the people are, especially at the high levels of society, they really don't come back and really, it's just like, okay, the world's terrible, it's going to be a tough time and get over it. It's like, so people are not really feeling the people showing up right now.
I think that's right. And even if you do charitable giving, which we know Beyonce and Steve Harvey do to an extent, when you talk about solutions, we are talking about things that impact large groups of people and changing mindsets. At least that's how I would view it, right? And I think that you've hit on something. Celebrities have traditionally, at least for the past decade, that's what they do. They show off. Me on my boat, me with my surgically enhanced body, me with my, multi-tens of thousands dress, me, on my ski resort, me on my yacht. And I think that currency, the currency of celebrity fabulousness, is on the decline.
Yeah, I think so. And I also think that, I wouldn't put it into this level, living in New York City all my life, and we've gone through September 11th, there's so many different things. But after that time, when we've had those issues, there was a certain respect for what's going on in the country. And that was kind of wonderful that you said, oh, something major happened. People are hurting. And even though my business may be going very conscious of what else is going on. And I think that, giving charity and stuff like that. But sometimes that charity doesn't reach everybody, to be honest with you. I think there was this woman from Housewives, and she went into detail about, a lot of celebrities, they kind of do things when it's really trending, when it's hot, when it's in the moment. But then a couple of months later, they move on to something else.
Yeah.
And there are people still there in need in Puerto Rico and California fires or wherever. Just things are just happening, and you need to be very conscious that right now, for me, there's a lot of hurting going on. And I don't think everybody's broke or poor or scared, but there's a lot of chaos going on. And in the time of chaos, and I'm not going to call in depression and all that stuff in the 1930s. I'm not calling that in. But it's the energy going on. And we just have to be very sober and very just, respectful that there's something different happening. And we can't just go on, flaunting. Be grateful for what you got. Be grateful for your success. I'm happy for people who get there. But just be respectful. There's a lot of energy, very, intense energy going on right now. A lot of people are hurting.
Yeah, I think that's right. Don't be like Marie Antoinette is the thing, is the vibe, right? Let them eat cake when people, and to your point, not everyone is starving, but a lot of people have lost their jobs, for example, in the past 2 months. Tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs. And there's uncertainty and there's inflation. And so I think you're right. The spirit after 9/11 was, okay, let's get, just like the spirit of COVID, let's give love to first responders. Let's give love to firefighters. Let's be mindful of people impacted by these various situations, whether it be immigration or war or inflation, and show some respect and care. And I'm not sure that's happening right now yet.
And I would say this because I know you have other callers, and I'm going to drop this here. I like to learn from different groups. I'm not a woman, so here I am going to a Zoom call of Black, beautiful women on the weekend, and they're, high powered CEOs and all that kind of stuff. They have the world, they have everything at their tip, right at their fingertips. But you know what they talk about? They talk about the fact that no matter how powerful or wealthy or wonderful their lives are with their children and stuff like that, and I know this from my own family, the women in my family, they have a lot of anxiety about their care, about their health care, because Black women go through a lot, before even Trump got in office. So now with him there, so there's a lot of anxiety about women's health and women's care when it comes to their exams and it comes to, pregnancy and all that stuff. So I'm hearing a lot of anxiety about people's just well-being and health care. So there's a lot of anxiety just in so many levels, so whether you're a part of LGBT or just so many things. So you can be really good financially, but have a lot of anxiety about some things that can affect your life, basically.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I've had this argument with a bunch of guys. It's like, it's not just because everyone wants to run and get an abortion. If I'm pregnant and I'm trying to carry my baby to term and then I have a miscarriage and everything doesn't come out and I need to go to the hospital in certain states, I'm already labeled a criminal, because in order to save my life, to take out the rest of what didn't come out in that miscarriage, I have to have a procedure which may be illegal. That's just one example, but that's happening and women are dying from that. So it's not an illogical and that affects all women. It's not just Black women. It affects all women, rich, poor. So that's a good point. The LGBTQ plus, there's all these different layers of uncertainty, anxiety, and oppression that mean this is definitely not the time to be flossing your jet and talking about how, you're living the fabulous life without any sort of reference to the context of the times. Appreciate the call, Mel. Mel called 800-920-1580. I encourage you to do the same. We're unapologetically outspoken, unapologetically progressive, and unapologetically accessible. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like
inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Hello, this is Dr. Rosa Milligan calling authors and business owners to register now for Black Writers on Tour plus Business and Tech Expo Saturday, April 26th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Carson Community Center.
Authors, aspiring writers, learn how to write, publish, and sell your book. Business owners, Black folks got the memo, and they're looking for you now. Let them know where you're at. Call 323-750-3592. It's a free event. You heard right, free. And there's something for everybody. Go to blackwritersontour.com and register today. 323-750-3592.
Literacy and technology is everybody's business. Black Writers on Tour, Saturday, April 26th, 10 to 3 p.m. Admission and parking are free. See you there. 323-750-3592. Or visit Black Writers on Tour. Don't you miss it.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
It does continue, and you are the key to that. 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. I do want to remind you, though, by the way, Hawthorne Business Expo. I will be there. It's next Thursday, 3 to 7 at the Hawthorne Memorial Center. I'm hosting it, 3901 West El Segundo, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And Rance Dobson of 1500 or Nothing, he's the CEO. He's going to be speaking, keynote speaker there. Please register for that as well. Looking forward to seeing you there. HawthorneBusinessExpo.org. HawthorneBusinessExpo.org. Going to Edward calling us from LA. Good morning, kind sir.
Good morning, Dominique. Thank you for taking the call. I just love the show. Love everything that's been said so far. I want to start with something simple. I want to see us as a people, us as a country, but starting with just Black America, let's just be nicer to one another on a regular basis. Simple things like just saying hello to someone on the street, because that helps with the sort of the mental anxiety that a lot of us are going through right now. Just something as simple as that.
You know, it's so funny you'd say that, Edward, because when I first came to LA, I used to say hi to everybody. And when people would say, "You're not from here, huh?" Coming from the Bay Area, I guess I must have gotten meaner because people don't say that to me anymore. But I think you're right. I think we that seems like almost trite, but it's really important. Be kind. What was it the Dalai Lama said? Be kind whenever possible, and it's always possible.
Absolutely. And then you stem from there. You go from there. I believe in us, in terms of our survival and with the great things that we've accomplished that a lot of people don't want to give us credit for, but we've accomplished some amazing things. And I believe that's still there. I've gotten to the point where I say, hey, you know what? If I need to get a new car, do you have an African-American salesperson, well, woman or man? You know, if I'm going to buy, when I was looking for a house, I'd say, hey, I want to deal with a mortgage broker or a realtor that looks like me. Start from there, because we control $1 trillion. $1 trillion, just in terms of what we spend on a yearly basis.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, and it can infiltrate so many things. I've seen my health insurance plan go into shock when I say, "Well, I want a black doctor." What do you mean you want a black doctor? African American? Do I have to spell it out? Yeah. Black. I want one of those. You got any of those? We'll get right back to you. I mean, and I think that's part of kindness too, right? Is supporting one another's enterprises. And you know, with the Wealth Building Wednesday, we also support small businesses. We support socially innovative businesses. So it's not only Black is a priority, but back to kindness, who's doing something that will re-energize or improve the community for all of us? That's a socially innovative business. Who has a local business that's going to provide jobs for others? That's not Amazon, right? That's not going to take tax dollars and job opportunities out of the community. Those are folks we want to support too.
Well, I've dealt with finance for many, many years, and one of the things that I find amazing is, like, if you were to look at websites of some of these investment houses, correct, either buy side or sell side. I spent almost 25 years in the industry. One of the things that you notice, you look there and you say, and Unfortunately, I can say that I've worked with some of the DEI, which I will call dumb, entitled, and incompetent. There were some of the people that have been there because they were the grandson or the granddaughter of such and such. But if you look at some of these websites, there's clearly certain types of people that are missing. And you cannot tell me that if you've got 10,000 jobs within one finance company, that you can't have more than one person.
Yeah.
So it's literally one of those where I say support each other in terms of what, and I hate to jump all around here, but in terms of some of the educational things that they're trying to say, well, that one spot that African-American person took away, well, they weren't entitled to it. They weren't good enough for it. I say, let's focus on us. Let's get it to the point. If you want to play it's just the numbers, Jack, well, guess what? My kid scored a 1600 and had a 4.0 as well. So what? Now what?
Yeah. Well, and the fact is that there's an overestimating of how much stuff is given through any of these. DEI was never affirmative action. DEI was make sure everyone knows about the opportunity so everyone can compete. It never meant you get the job automatically. It meant you get to apply for the job like everybody else. And that even that's being demonized, which is why I said last year, it's gotten beyond we don't want to help you to we don't want to include you.
Exactly. So true. So I love the things that you're doing on the show, and I hope more people listen to it. I will start listening to it on a more regular basis. I believe so much in us as a people. And quite frankly, if anyone ever questions my patriotism, I can tell you this. I know that in my family, there's been 4 generations that have actually served. I know so many people that want to claim that we aren't worthy to be here that will find a way to get out of serving. And
like our president.
Exactly.
Like President Bone Spurs.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well said. And patriotism, like Frederick Douglass said, is not defined by just going along with every crazy thing that the government comes up with. It's defined by holding our country accountable to our vision of what we said we would like to be, our vision of who we plan to be, our highest aspiration as expressed through the Constitution and its amendments. That's what being a patriot is. Being a patriot doesn't mean going along with fascism, white supremacy, misogyny, militarism. That's not what patriotism is. Patriotism means loving your country so much that you're willing to risk it all to make her better.
My last thing, because I don't want to take up your time, I could speak to you all day. When we're talking about President Bone Spurs and some of his economic genius, all you have to do when you look at supply side economics, which is what he's trying to do, leads to, cutting of taxes, all those wonderful things, cutting taxes, because the trickle down effect will come into play. The other thing basically saying that we don't need all these regulations, let's cut those. The problem with that is it may bring some work back initially, but the problem is the guy at the top, as we were talking about this, the CEO that was making $10 million and has 2 yachts, all of a sudden says, hey, addition by subtraction, let me cut these jobs, send them across seas, outsource them so I can make $50 million and have 5 yachts.
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, when you're talking about an honor system for fixing the economy, that's definitely a problem. Edward, I appreciate the call, and I appreciate you spreading the word about KBLA. That's why we're still here, folks like you. We're going to go to Randy calling us from Watts. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Dominique. I tell you, we have definitely got a situation, and lucky we have you out there over the airwaves.
Thank you.
I was in transportation.
Yes, I do. Of course, we all know that by now, Randy.
I just talked to one of my cousins of mine who's a top handler down in the harbors along Shoreman, and she stated that even though they're pushing jobs out, the jobs that went from like 400 or 500 3 or 4 weeks ago to 1,100 per day, but there's no volume of ships coming in. And we haven't even imposed this charge on those.
Well, there's the 10% is in effect. The 10% tariff has gone into effect. The what he called reciprocal tariffs, which is not really what they were. Reciprocal means you're doing the same thing to the other person that they do to you. That's not what it is. His are higher, but whatever you want to call it, his bigger tariffs have been put on pause for 90 days. So he's got to make 159 deals with 159 different entities within 90 days or 80 7 days or whatever it is. But those 10% tariffs have already kicked in. So that's not surprising that we would see some impacts. I don't know the mathematics of that or the data of that, but there's also the anticipation of more erratic behavior, which gives people pause in terms of investing and, and moving forward with plans for interacting with our economy.
One of the things that I want for our community to realize that, this same concept came around back about 89, 92. We were operating a redevelopment of South Central, of which we stopped. And in the means of that, we was working with CRA, and we had the mayor buy a 14-acre facility down here off of Lancet, which is still sits empty, which we had set aside as an incubator for our community to learn and train. It still sits idle. And I just want you and the city to be aware. I don't want to see, if this happens and they do try to bring manufacturing back in here, we've got to put these young people in gear to be able to take advantage of those jobs. Not for me.
All right, Randy, to be continued. I appreciate your sentiment, and you're always bringing it back to the those jobs, those working class jobs, but to be continued, because it is time for Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley's on deck. He's got an incredible show ahead for you. I'm going to a Malcolm X quote. He says, "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today." Don't forget to tap in with me on social media. I'm there all the time when I'm not on the mic. I'm at DiPrima Radio, DiPrima, and then radio. You can find us at KBLA 1580 on all platforms. Please like, subscribe, follow, and talk back. Like my mama used to say, history is now, and we're making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. New York City Mayor Eric Adams visited the Dominican Republic to pay respects to victims of last week's nightclub roof collapse, which killed over 200. He offered support to the families as New York City's Dominican community mourns. The federal government is freezing over $2 billion in grants to Harvard after the school rejected conditions to audit viewpoints and punish pro-Palestinian protesters. The administration's task force says harassment of Jewish students is intolerable. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele says he won't return a mistakenly deported man to the U.S., citing concerns about releasing terrorists. The DOJ admitted the man from Maryland should not have been deported due to a 2019 immigration judge's order. And the MLB will honor Jackie Robinson's legacy on Jackie Robinson Day, which is today, April 15th. All players will wear his iconic number 42 on a special patch. Robinson broke baseball's color barrier in 1947. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC forward Kiki Iriafen was the 4th player selected Monday night in the WNBA draft. Iriafen was chosen by the Washington Mystics. The LA Sparks used their first-round pick on Alabama forward Sarah Ashley Barker. The number 77 jersey worn by Lakers star Luka Doncic is the top-selling jersey in the NBA. Doncic is the first player other than LeBron and Steph Curry to lead the NBA in jersey sales since 2013. Doncic, a native of Slovenia, is also the first international player to lead the NBA in jersey sales. For some reason, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders has declined an invitation to attend the NFL draft, scheduled for April 24th in Green Bay. Sanders is projected to be the second quarterback selected. At least 17 players expected to be first-round picks have agreed to attend the draft. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park. and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Big Five of Money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth